Everybody who has been joining us since last week. We are currently in Love Your Neighbor Month. We are having four faith leaders of different faiths come and speak about what love your neighbor means to them and how that relates to everything we're doing here. Last week we had somebody from Moose, the Unitarian Universalist Church, and today we are incredibly grateful to have Rabbi Polokoff speaking about love your neighbor. Rabbi? Hold this if you like. You can click it whenever you like.
So we'll just do a quick pass of the microphone. You let me know if this is working, and I'll move back just a little bit before. For your protection, I'm wearing this. As you know, for Justice Southbury, this is Love Your Neighbor as Yourself Month. As my colleagues and I each share our own distinct approaches to the well-known biblical verse from Leviticus 19:18. From a Jewish vantage nearly 2,000 years ago, a preeminent sage explained that was Klal Gadol b'Torah, the great principle of the Torah. And it was this: Ve'ahavta l'orecha kamocha, translated, love your neighbor as yourself, or perhaps love your fellow person as yourself. As such, that sage, Rabbi Akiva, would approve of this endeavor over this month. To be sure, it's a deceptively simple statement whose nuances extend far beyond the sense that we must concern ourselves with those around us. Akiva taught that loving another was first grounded in respecting oneself. The Bible itself emphasizes that loving your neighbor as yourself is not some fatuous, airy prescription devoid of context. The verse comes in a segment known as the Holiness Code. It presents holiness not as touchy-feely spirituality, but ethical behavior and identification with the source of freedom and human dignity. Loving your neighbor as yourself requires assisting the poor and the sojourner, as well as not stealing or cheating and the like, not placing a stumbling block before the blind, impartiality in the administration of justice, and not standing idle while another bleeds, to not be indifferent. Love is to be an action, not a passive emotion. Which leads directly to this week's commemoration here in Southbury of the 85th anniversary of Southbury saying no to the Nazis, as it overcame the German-American Bund. The now well-documented history, hopefully familiar to all, highlights the leadership of the clergy, starting with the Reverend M.E.N. Lindsay of South Britain Congregational Church, and the Reverend Felix Manley of what is now then the Southbury Federated Church, now the United Church of Christ, along with town leaders in formulating and executing the town's stance against the German-American Bund, that Nazi organization that had in 1937 sought to develop a camp here in the Kettletown section. In an incredible sermon that showed his learning, thoughtfulness, and a firm grasp on current events far beyond Southbury, the Reverend Lindsay characterized the Bund as an insidious menace, un-Christian, un-American, and pro-Nazi, end quote. He also specifically condemned Nazism for its persecution of Jews. That was in 1937, before Kristallnacht, with its destruction of Jewish property and synagogues throughout the German-occupied land, and the mass arrests and internment of Jewish German Jewish men in concentration camps. This happened before the British and French appeasement at Munich or the Nazi invasion of Poland that began World War II, and the deliberate murder of 6 million Jews amongst others, creating the largest number of military casualties and civilian fatalities in history. It was this very poison, the debasement of personhood, that Southbury stood against, as beyond words it employed legal zoning regulations as well as a biased application of the blue laws. Loving one's neighbor was demonstrated here as leaders galvanized a community into collective action. It's 85 years later, and we stand directly across from the same gas station where a cub reporter from the area newspaper chatted with locals and learned the news of the Bund's arrival, an event that would propel Southbury's resolve into national news. From our vantage of history, we know that the defeat of the Nazis, while ushering in freedom and stability for many over the decades, did not preclude other genocides or even extend justice to all within democracies. This year, Russia has launched a genocidal campaign against the people of Ukraine. They and we confront a renewed nightmare and the potential grave potential consequences of what would happen, heaven forfend, with a fascist victory. Respecting ourselves and loving our fellow people as ourselves, and following the model of commitment forged in this very town, may we not be indifferent. May we not stand idle as others bleed. Rather, in realm upon realm, in pursuit of justice and hope, may we, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, love our fellow persons as ourselves. Ken Yehi Ratzon, be this God's will. And thank you for the work that you all do. Woo!